Another concept associated with metaprogramming is something called dynamic methods. So in static languages like Java, for example, the compiler requires you to define all the methods up front. In dynamic languages like Python or Ruby, methods don't have to be predefined. They just need to be found when invoked. So the advantage of static languages is that compiler can sometimes find bugs easier because the methods actually have to exist, and if you make a typo, it will tell you about it. But the disadvantage is that sometimes you're only defining methods to make the compiler happy, and it feels wrong to define so many methods. So let's take a look at a concrete example. Let's say you have a store class, which basically has a description and price of store products. And you are tasked with building a reporting system that can generate reports for different items in the store. So this is the store class. It has methods like get piano description, get piano price, get violin description, get violin price, and many other methods for different items in the store. So your reporting system class is basically going to delegate to the store methods, right? So you're going to have a constructor that's going to have a store instantiated, and then the get piano description, the get piano price methods of reporting system are essentially going to call into the store methods, get piano description, get piano price of a store. So now you could say RS, which is a reporting system, get piano description costs a certain amount. Okay? Now, so far we have seen how to call methods using the dot notation. So you do object dot method. But it turns out that there is another way to call a method using the send method. So the first parameter is a method name, either a string or a symbol, and the rest, if the other parameters, are the arguments to that method. So what does send mean? Think of it as sending a message to an object. So for example, you have this dog class that has a bark method on it, so prints out woof woof, or greeting, so you greet with a certain greeting, two methods. So what we've seen so far is that you could just do dog.bark, and that's fine, but you could also do dog.send calling the method bark. That works exactly the same, whether it's a string or a symbol, it works the same way. And also you could define the method name as a variable. So method name is bark, and then you could say send the message to this method name, which is a variable, which happens to be bark. And if you want to include parameters to a method, you just include that as the other parameters. So dog.send, the method name goes first, and then the other parameters into this method, into this send method, are going to be the parameters to the greet method. So this is called dynamic dispatch. You're dynamically calling methods. The advantages to this dynamic dispatch is that you can decide at runtime which methods to call. And the code doesn't have to find out till runtime which method it needs to call. So for example, you have some YAML. Let's say some YAML. This is just how you define a string here, but you have name, John, and then age 24. You require the YAML module in Ruby, and then you have a class called a person class, which lets you call the getters and setters on the name and the age. So you instantiate the person class, you load the some YAML variable as YAML, which gives you basically name John and age 24. But then you could say, hey, person, for every property in this YAML file, call that property method equals, which basically is a setter, right? So call all the setters in these properties and pass in a value, right? So essentially it's going to do name equals and age equals with its corresponding value. So that just works. And then you end up with a person with a certain name and a certain age. Now, the interesting part about this is that send lets you call even objects private methods, which is pretty crazy. But Ruby 1.9 experimented with restricting send to only be able to call public methods, and it didn't fly. The programmers liked that ability to call private methods, and they had to revert back. Now, there is now also a public send method that you could use just to call public methods, because that just feels that feels a little cleaner to only be able to call public methods with send, but the regular send is still able to call private methods if you need to. In any case, another concept besides the dynamic dispatch is something called dynamic method. So not only can you call methods dynamically, which is what dynamic dispatch is, you could also define the methods dynamically. How would you do that? You have this thing called define method. So you do define method, you specify the method name as a symbol, and then you specify the block which contains the method definition. When executed within the class, this will define an instance method for the class. So, for example, you have a class called whatever, and you call define method with a method name, and you're able to specify the method definition inside the block. So in this case, whatever, new, and make it up is a regular method for the whatever class. So instead of doing def and actually specifying the method, you do it to this define method way, which again is called the dynamic method concept. So what does all of this do for us? So for example, in our case of reporting system, instead of doing this, having a reporting system class that basically has to have a separate method for all of these different methods in the class, in the store class, and writing hundreds of methods that store class already has, what you could do instead is you could define this class, reporting system 2, which still initializes the store, but then, check this out, it actually greps, it does a grep for all the methods in the store for a certain pattern, right? So we know that all the methods in the store have this pattern of get underscore something. So you use a regular expression, which is what grep method on an array of methods lets you do. Use a regular expression with a capture group, which is going to be the actual items. So get piano description, get violin description. And then you have $1, which is the value of each item in that capture group. And then you could say define report methods for that item. So you could define a method in your class that says define report methods for, and then inside that method you could have two methods, one defining the get item, which item is just what you passed in as your capture group, get item description, get item price, and you provide the body of that method, which is basically call a method in the store with that same name. In this case, store send send a message to the store for that same name, or in the case of a price, it's the same block, just in one case you're doing a block as of curlies, and in the other case you're doing a block as do end, store send get item price. So now all of a sudden this becomes your whole class, and you don't have to define any of those methods. Those methods are defined for you dynamically by examining the store class. And it works exactly the same way. So what this gives you is that there's no more duplication. You don't have to duplicate all those methods that are already defined in the store class to also have to be in the reporting system class. And the bonus is, if someone adds a new item to the store, your reporting system class already knows about it, as long as the same method naming pattern is adhered to. So that's great.